Then we have the next kind of insecure attachment, and that is the kind of attachment where a child is born to a family, also a good family, where maybe the parents have very, very specific goals, or maybe it's the mother is very perfectionistic, and she wants her child to be a certain way. Well-behaved, high-achieving, it could be anything, but a certain way, her way, and maybe very specifically her way. So maybe she tasks the child a lot. Now do this, now come here, now go there, now sit down, now go brush your teeth. Now it's almost time to leave, so we have to go. Look at yourself, you have to change your clothes. What'd you do in school today? Oh, you didn't do well? No. And her day is around tasking this child, commenting, responding, focusing. And what does this kid learn about relationship? This is not a fun place to be. I don't much like being in relationship. It's not fun. There's no air. I can't breathe. There's no space. It's like, whew, get me out of here. And this person will grow up to feel that the best place to be is not with someone else. Of course, we don't see that immediately, but we're going to call him an avoidant. And when I say ambivalent or avoidant, what I'm really talking about is in the intimate space, getting close to someone. When people get into that space together, this relational space, the ambivalent will feel there's no reliability and will maybe complain, distance, whine, get angry. And the avoidant will withdraw or leave. Okay? Now imagine this. The typical positioning is that this one will marry this one. Can you imagine what that is like? And that is a typical positioning, because they will find themselves initially complementary. And they will each be right. She'll say to him, you always leave when we fight. Why don't you stick around and hash it out? And he'll say to her, if you scream at me anymore, I'm going to run even further. And that becomes a cycle. So she's complaining, or vice versa. She's complaining, he's withdrawing, and the cycle continues. That's just one example. It gets even worse if we go down here, because the fourth and the worst type of attachment is called disorganized. By the way, when they did the research for this, they did research with little children, they did long-term studies, and they found that 20 years later, just by listening to the speech of the adults, they could tell which kind of attachment they had. And it's a very, very high-level piece of research. And still today, you can listen to someone, you can tell what kind of attachment they had. Now, what happens in the life of a disorganized? Disorganized attachment is where children are really abused. So this is a small percentage, but it's a significant percentage of the population. When a child is abused, what happens is he wants to go towards his parent, but he can't, because the person who is supposed to be offering him safety is dangerous. So it's like approach, withdraw, approach, withdraw. And that's what goes on inside a child who is abused. A melee of feelings, a melange of feelings, all kinds of wanting, hoping. This is my mother, it's my father, I want them to care about me, I want them to love me. No, I have to go be safe. No, I can't run away, they'll get upset. Yeah.
You mean people who are abused by the parents?
Yes.
Or by somebody else?
Well, my whole point is that this is the substratum that gets put into the child onset of life, he will develop one of these. And I said 50% are secure. What happens with the others? So it's going to be one of these. I'll answer questions a little bit later, maybe after this section. And then what's abuse? Abuse is either physical or emotional or sexual. I said emotional, verbal, emotional, where a child is badly mistreated. So if it were emotional, it would be that a child is put down, humiliated, unnecessarily shamed, hurt constantly, like parents who are constantly putting down their children, calling them names, telling them they won't be anything or they won't amount to anything or they can't do anything right, never being pleased, always being disgusted with the child, telling the child they have no value, and on and on and on. That's emotional abuse. There's also physical abuse where children are constantly hit, sexual abuse where their own boundaries are broken again and again. Those children become really disorganized in their functioning. And sometimes you can have one of these with some pieces of this, like say somebody's living in an ambivalent relationship where the mother's okay, she's just not so stable and she's not so reliable. She loves her child, as I think most parents do, but she's a little crazy. And so sometimes she'll be abusive. She's not regularly abusive, a little abusive. Or the child is living in a home that has a great deal of conflict, so every once in a while the child listens to dishes being broken and doors slamming and screaming and yelling. And then it goes away, and then it comes back. So those pieces can be disorganized pieces of information that really enter into the child's mental and physical system. And trauma, by the way, is held in the body. So actually you can see trauma, and maybe you could talk for a minute about that. You can actually see trauma inside the body as it surfaces because it develops a defense structure in the body. So, for example, if somebody feels they're going to be hit, they might go like this a lot, right? Do you want to? No? So they may develop a way, they will develop. You know, in other words, if you look at someone's body, their posture, how they hold themselves, you can tell a lot about what they're feeling and what they've been feeling. I always talk about the person who looks perennially insulted. You know, there are people who walk around like that, right? We've all seen people who they have a look. Those people have really been insulted. They look insulted. You're laughing, but it's true. You can see people who have been hurt because they have a hurt look on their face and they're just waiting to get hurt. So actually, our attachment affects our biology. Okay, did somebody want to ask something?